Hi. You're watching Reddit Confessions. I hope you're sitting somewhere comfortable, because this one unraveled faster than I ever thought my life could. No dramatic backstory. No sweet beginnings. We're not starting with fairy tales here, just a cold Tuesday night, a blinking microwave clock, and a wife who thought I'd never grow a spine. 8:12 p.m. That's when she said it. Not during a fight. Not through tears. Just, halfway through folding laundry, like she was talking about switching brands of detergent. I need space from this marriage. No eye contact. Just her fingers neatly pressing down a pair of my socks I'd bought on a Target run she was too tired to join last month. I don't know how to describe what I felt in that moment. Not heartbreak, no, that came later. It was more like this strange, low buzzing inside my chest. Like a wasp got in and couldn't find its way out. Normally, I would have asked what I did wrong. I'd offer to change something. Maybe I'd make a spreadsheet of how to improve our communication. That's what I do, I fix, I overthink, I grovel. But not this time. Instead, I walked into the closet, grabbed the old navy blue suitcase with the broken wheel, and brought it back into the living room. Placed it next to her like it was part of the laundry pile. Then pack fast, I said. Your space starts tonight. I swear I could hear her breath catch, just for a second. But she kept folding. She finished my socks, set them down, and stood up without a word. She didn't ask where this was coming from. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just went upstairs. And me? I sat on the couch, still holding a shirt I hadn't even realized I was folding. It belonged to her. It had little flowers on it, the one she used to wear on our movie nights. I stared at it for a good 10 minutes, trying to remember the last time she laughed during a movie. Couldn't. 9:03 p.m. She came down with the suitcase. Still silent. Still composed. She didn't take much, just enough to look like she was planning to return. That stung. Like she thought I'd be sitting here in 2 days with takeout and an apology. She said, I'll be staying at a friend's. I didn't ask which friend. Because I already knew. She walked out. And that's when everything went quiet. Not just in the room, but inside me. What she didn't know, what she never expected, is that I already knew the truth. She didn't need space. She needed a cover. And I was done being her alibi. The next 24 hours changed everything. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. I sat on the couch with the TV off, just staring at my own reflection in the black screen. My face looked older than I remembered. I looked like someone who'd just been laid off from his own life. Cricket, our beagle, curled up beside me, his little head resting on my thigh, as if he understood something had shifted. Maybe dogs always know before we do. I kept waiting for my phone to buzz. A text from her. A call. Some sort of explanation or follow-up, like maybe she'd say she overreacted. But there was nothing. Just silence. The kind that doesn't just surround you, it presses on your chest. By morning, my brain started doing what it always does, spiraling. Wondering. Playing detective. So I did the thing I'd been afraid to do for months. I logged into our shared cloud account. Now, before you judge me, we both used the same cloud for syncing photos. Not out of some weird agreement, but because I handled all the tech stuff in our house. Dana never bothered changing passwords or unlinking devices. She always said she had nothing to hide. And maybe once, that was true. But not anymore. When I opened the photo timeline, my stomach knotted. There were new photos. Timestamps from 11:47 p.m. the night she left. At first glance, they looked innocent, just blurry night shots from a phone camera. But I tapped one, and my heart collapsed like a folding chair under a heavyweight. There she was. In a hotel mirror. In a short satin robe I'd never seen before. Hair down. Holding a wine glass. Pouting like she was sending it to someone. Definitely not me. I scrolled down. Another one. This time she wasn't alone. A man's hand was in the frame. Resting on her waist. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break the phone in half. Instead, I just stared. Frozen. Eyes wide open, heart completely shut down. I didn't recognize the guy, but I recognized the location. The Eldridge Hotel. A boutique place 2 towns over. She'd mentioned it once as a cute spot she found online when her friend Kendra was planning a bachelorette party. Only now it wasn't Kendra who booked a room there. It was Dana. 2 days before she told me she needed space. She didn't just walk out of our marriage. She walked into someone else's bed. And what really messed with my head was how effortless she made it look. Like this had been planned for weeks. Maybe even longer. While I was picking out new cabinet handles for our kitchen remodel, she was planning an overnight escape with some mystery guy who had no problem posing in hotel selfies like this was just a fun fling. But the worst part? It wasn't the photos. It wasn't the hotel. It was the email I found when I opened her laptop again. Yeah, I know. Not proud. But everything inside me was cracking and I needed answers. The email was from a realtor. It was a property listing for a small 1-bedroom condo in Prescott. The subject line said, "Offer submitted. Welcome to your new start." The condo was in her name only. No mention of me. No joint anything. Just her. Suddenly, everything made sense. She hadn't just wanted space, she was replacing her life. Replacing our house. Replacing me. And yet, she still hadn't told me any of this. That night, while she was out there toasting her new life, I was here, left to clean up the emotional crime scene she'd created. Alone. With a dog who kept walking to the front door every 10 minutes, waiting for her to come back. But I wasn't going to wait anymore. She wanted space. I'd give her more than that. I was about to give her silence, distance, and consequences. And when she came crawling back the next morning, and yes, she didn't expect what I had waiting for her. Trust me, you haven't heard anything yet. The next morning didn't start with a knock on the door or a call. It started with a ding. At exactly 6:43 a.m., I received a text. Just one line. Simple. Like she was checking in after a sleepover. Hey. Can we talk later today? That's it. No good morning, no explanation, no mention of the fact that she had just walked out of our marriage like it was a gym membership she was bored of. No apology for leaving me sitting in the wreckage of what used to be a life we built together. Just, can we talk? But I didn't reply. Not out of strategy. I just couldn't. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for minutes, but every version of a response felt like handing her a weapon. I stared at her words until they blurred, then I closed the message and opened my email. That's when I saw something that made my heart hiccup. An alert from our joint bank account. Someone had withdrawn $4,000. That someone was Dana. The description read, Prescott closing deposit. It all clicked. The new condo. The plan. She wasn't coming back to figure things out. She was preparing her exit with GPS precision and financial confidence. And here I was, still sitting in the hoodie I wore yesterday, teeth unbrushed, trying to figure out how my whole life got traded for a man with a six-pack and a hotel keycard. I went upstairs to our bedroom. Everything looked untouched except for the missing suitcase. Her side of the closet had a few empty hangers swinging slightly, like they hadn't even fully settled from her grabbing her things. The drawer where she kept her jewelry was open a crack, as if she'd rushed. Or didn't care. I sat on the edge of the bed and realized something I hadn't let myself admit the night before. She didn't just cheat. She quit on us long before she told me she needed space. The fake smiles, the late work events, the sudden obsession with spin classes, it was all part of the slow fade. She was soft launching her new life while I was still meal prepping for two. That's when I opened the drawer on my side and pulled out the manila folder I never thought I'd use, the one labeled emergency. Inside were copies of every financial document we ever filed together. Mortgage. Tax returns. Investments. The works. And next to it, the name of a lawyer my brother had once recommended, back when his wife blindsided him with divorce papers after a meditation retreat. I made the call. I booked the consultation. And for the first time in a long time, I made a decision without checking if Dana would be okay with it. I was done reacting. I was going to move. Fast. At exactly 9:17 a.m., just as I was printing out bank statements, another text came through. This time longer. I just need to explain. Please don't do anything drastic. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm confused too. Oh. So now she's confused. She wasn't confused last night in the hotel mirror. She wasn't confused when she toasted wine glasses with that man. She wasn't confused when she submitted a down payment for a solo condo while I was loading mulch bags at the store to help us save for a new washer. So, I didn't reply. Instead, I did something else. I packed a second bag. But not for her. For me. Not because I was leaving. But because I was preparing for the storm she didn't see coming. What she really didn't know, and what I had kept quiet for years, was that she wasn't the only one with secrets. She wasn't the only one who'd been watching quietly from the sidelines. And when she showed up at the door later that afternoon, with trembling hands and fake remorse in her eyes, she had no idea that I was the one who'd already flipped the script. She showed up at 2:16 p.m. I remember the time exactly because I had been watching the clock all day. Not waiting out of desperation, no. Waiting like you wait for a storm to hit that you already boarded the windows for. My hands were shaking, not because I wanted her back, but because I didn't know how much more damage she'd try to do on her way out. When the doorbell rang, Cricket barked once, then ran to the door like she was still the same woman who used to sneak him peanut butter when I wasn't looking. I didn't move at first. I just sat at the kitchen table and stared at her through the side window. She looked tired, but not like she hadn't slept, tired in that fake, overacted way someone looks when they want to seem broken, but their ego is too intact to truly collapse. I opened the door but didn't step aside. She didn't speak right away. She just looked at me like she was waiting for an invitation that wasn't coming. Her bag was still in her car, the handle sticking up like it didn't know whether it was staying or going. Finally, she said, "Can we sit down?" I replied, "Sure." On the porch. That surprised her. Her eyes flicked toward the living room, toward the couch where we'd once fallen asleep watching reruns of Frasier. But I didn't budge. She followed me out to the porch like a guest in someone else's house. She started slow. Said she didn't plan for things to go this way. That life had gotten complicated. That she was just trying to find herself. I didn't interrupt. I let her talk because every word she said wasn't for me, it was for her. A monologue for her own guilt, not a conversation for redemption. Then she hit me with it. I didn't cheat. There it was. The line. The denial. She said she stayed at Kendra's. She said the hotel photos weren't what I thought. She said the guy in the mirror was a friend, and they were celebrating, because he just sold a property and she was helping him through something. I almost laughed. Almost. But instead, I reached into the manila folder I'd kept next to me on the porch swing and pulled out a piece of paper I had printed that morning. I handed it to her. It was a hotel receipt. Not from our cloud account. Not from her email. From a friend of mine who worked front desk security at that exact hotel. The timestamp, the room number, the 2 breakfast charges for 2 guests. All of it was there. Concrete. Non-negotiable. And still, she denied it. "You're misreading this," she whispered. And that was the moment something snapped in me, but not in the way you might think. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. What snapped was the last little string of hope that I'd been holding onto like a fool. Hope that maybe I had misunderstood. That maybe she was just lost and needed direction. But there was no misunderstanding. There was only a woman who thought I was too soft, too passive, too desperate to call her out on the life she was building behind my back. So, I told her something I hadn't planned on saying until much later. I contacted the bank this morning. Froze our joint savings. Transferred my portion to a new account. You won't be touching another cent of mine. Her mouth opened slightly like she wanted to argue, but she saw something in my eyes that made her stop. Then I told her the rest. I also contacted a lawyer. Consultations in 2 days. And I'm filing. She sat back in the patio chair like someone had kicked the air out of her. Not because she didn't see it coming, but because she had hoped I wouldn't have the guts. And now that I did, her whole carefully arranged future started to collapse. She said, "You're really doing this?" I said, "You already did." And for the first time since this whole thing started, she cried. It wasn't loud or theatrical. It was that tight, silent cry where the face crumples but no sound comes out. She covered her mouth with her hand, then looked out at the yard like the trees could save her from the consequences of her own choices. But I didn't comfort her. I didn't reach for her hand. Because I realized in that moment that every time I had picked her over myself, I was just giving her another tool to tear me down. And now, I was finally putting the tools away. But the next part? The part she didn't know. The part one hadn't even told my closest friends. That's what made her truly lose it the next day. Because she wasn't the only one who had been preparing something quietly. The next morning began with something I hadn't expected. Silence. Not the heavy, awkward silence that follows a fight, but the kind of silence that feels clean. Cleansing. Like someone turned off the background noise in my life for the first time in years. I woke up at 6:30 a.m., stretched in bed, and for once, I didn't hear the hum of her curling iron, or the sound of her humming to some indie playlist as she got ready. There was just the breeze outside, the light tap of crickets' paws on the floor, and the realization that the storm wasn't over, but it had shifted. I didn't go to work. I took the day off and made a single call. One I'd been rehearsing in my head since the moment I saw that hotel photo. I called her parents. Now, let me say this, Dana's parents and I had always been polite with each other, but never close. Her mother, especially, always kept me at arm's length. I think she secretly hoped Dana would have ended up with some finance guy from Phoenix instead of marrying the guy who works at a hardware store and wears flannel unironically. But her dad? Dean was different. Blue-collar guy like me. Spent his life working in roofing, still wakes up at 5 a.m. even in retirement. He once told me over a beer that he respected how I took care of Dana. That I reminded him of himself when he was younger. So when Dean answered the phone and heard my voice, he could tell something was off. I asked if they were home. He said yes. I told him I needed 20 minutes of their time, no more, no less. He didn't ask questions. Just said, "Come over." When I pulled into their driveway, I saw the blinds shift. Her mom was watching. I could feel the frost from the porch before I even knocked. But they let me in, and I sat down across from them at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd first asked for their blessing to marry Dana all those years ago. I didn't ramble. I didn't cry. I didn't even bring the photos. All I did was lay down 3 facts. Dana left our home claiming she needed space. Less than 24 hours later, she was in a hotel with another man. She had put down a deposit on a condo in another town under her name only, using money from our joint account, without my knowledge. Her mother looked like she wanted to say something but didn't. Her dad just asked, "Are you sure?" I nodded. "I have everything documented. But I'm not here for revenge or validation. I just thought you deserved to know. Because I don't think you raised her to become this." That hit harder than I thought it would. Dean leaned back in his chair and took a deep breath. His jaw clenched, and for a moment, I saw his heart breaking in real time. Not for me. For the daughter he no longer recognized. Her mother finally spoke. She asked if I had considered counseling. Therapy. Mediation. I told her this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a bump. This was a betrayal, and it had been built, brick by brick, behind my back. I could tell she didn't like hearing it. But she didn't argue. Before I left, Dean walked me out. Just him and me, no words from the wife. On the porch, he placed a hand on my shoulder. "You were always good to her," he said. "Better than she ever admitted." "I'm sorry, son." It was the first time anyone in this whole mess had told me I deserved better. By the time I got home, I had 5 missed calls from Dana. Then a text. "Did you seriously go to my parents? What is wrong with you? No apology. No accountability. Just how dare you expose me?" I didn't reply. I just sent her one thing, a photo of the suitcase still sitting in the garage where she left it. The caption? "It's still here. Just like your lies." She didn't respond for hours. And when she did, it wasn't what I expected. She didn't ask to come back. She didn't offer to talk things out. Instead, she asked about Cricket. "Is he okay? Does he miss me?" I stared at that text for what felt like an eternity. My wife, who burned our marriage to the ground and tried to escape through the smoke, was suddenly playing dog mom like that excused everything. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just selfish. She was delusional. She thought she could rewrite the narrative. Rebrand herself as the misunderstood wife who just needed clarity. She thought if she cried in front of the right people, they'd forget the receipts, the hotel photos, the money trail. But not this time. Because I had one last move. And it wasn't about money. Or lawyers. Or even revenge. It was something far more personal. There's something eerie about calm before a collapse. It's not peace. It's a pause. And that next morning, the air felt too still, like the universe was holding its breath, waiting for the final push. I didn't sleep again. Not because I was heartbroken. That stage had passed. What kept me awake was something else entirely: resolve. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for someone to explain themselves. I was preparing to expose them. You see, I knew Dana. I knew her tells. Her need to control the narrative. To make herself the victim in a story she set on fire. She would never admit anything until she felt safe, or cornered. And I wasn't about to wait for the safety part. So I made the decision. I texted her. "Come talk. In person. I'll listen. That's all." She replied within 30 seconds. "Are you serious?" "Yes. No games. Just say what you need to say." And then I did what I hadn't told anyone I would do. I set my phone to record. Before anyone jumps down my throat, yes, it's legal in my state. One-party consent. And honestly, I didn't plan on using it for court or revenge or social media fame. I just wanted the truth. My truth. For my own clarity, my own sanity. I needed to hear her say it. No more gaslighting. No more pretending. She showed up wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, like she was walking into a therapy appointment, not returning to the house she abandoned 4 days ago. I didn't let her in the house. We sat in the garage, the same one where her suitcase still sat, dusty and unopened. She didn't ask for a hug. She didn't pet the dog. She just sat across from me on the fold-out chairs we kept by the toolbox, like this was an exit interview for a job she was quitting without notice. I didn't speak first. She did. And what came out of her mouth was one of the most bizarre combinations of honesty and fantasy I've ever heard. She started by saying she never meant for it to go this far. Then said she felt emotionally abandoned. Then, without skipping a beat, she added that the man from the hotel wasn't a real affair, just a moment of confusion. A slip. I asked her if she'd slept with him. She paused. That's all I needed. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. I just let her talk. She dug her own hole with every passing sentence. The lies layered over half-truths. The contradictions piling up so fast I could barely keep track. But the part that changed everything was when she said, "You made it too easy to walk over you. That's why it happened. Because I knew you'd stay." It wasn't said cruelly. It wasn't even said with malice. It was just stated. Like a fact. Like a person acknowledging that they stepped on a doormat every day and only realized it was a human being when the doormat finally moved. That broke something in me that wasn't sadness. It was a flame. For years, I thought love was endurance. Loyalty. Compromise. And it is, to a point. But when your partner starts using those qualities against you, they're not loving you. They're harvesting you. I let her talk for another 15 minutes, until she ran out of steam. Her eyes darted everywhere, the ceiling, the shelves, the floor, anywhere but me. Then I asked one question. If I hadn't said anything, would you have come back? Her answer. Silence. Then, probably not. That was it. That was the honest Dana. The version that lived underneath all the fake apologies and vague excuses. I ended the recording right there. She asked what I was thinking. I told her that I already had a lawyer, that our accounts were separated, and that she was free to go, fully, legally, and with nothing but the suitcase she never took with her in the first place. She blinked like she'd been slapped. But she didn't argue. She didn't beg. She stood up, walked to her bag, and for a second, I thought she was going to say something meaningful. Instead, she asked, "Can I take the espresso machine?" That's when I laughed. Not bitterly. Not angrily. Just, laughed. Because even in the ruins of everything we built, she was still trying to salvage appliances. "No," I said. "Take the suitcase. That's what you asked for." She left. For real this time. And I sat in the garage, letting the silence settle again, but now, it didn't feel like a pause. It felt like freedom. But things weren't over yet. Because that recording, it didn't stay secret for long. The garage was quiet after she left. Just me, cricket, and the distant hum of a neighbor's lawnmower somewhere down the block. The recording still sat in my phone, untouched since I hit stop. I didn't replay it. I didn't need to. Every word she said was burned into my memory with surgical precision. But I knew I couldn't keep it to myself forever, and that decision, the one to share it, didn't come from a place of revenge. It came from clarity. Because people like Dana, they don't just rewrite history, they publish it. They tell their version so loudly and so often that by the time you speak up, you sound like the bitter one. The crazy one. The overreacting husband who couldn't handle losing someone, finding themselves. I wasn't going to let her write my ending. The first call I made was to Dean, her dad. I told him I had recorded our conversation, and that it was legal. I told him I wasn't trying to stir drama or make this public, but that he deserved to know what his daughter really thought. He paused for a long time. Then he said something I didn't expect. Send it. So I did. I hit share, sent the file, and waited. 15 minutes later, I got a call back. Dean's voice was tight, brittle. She said you threatened her, he said. Said you manipulated her into leaving. I felt my stomach drop. I didn't see that coming. I thought maybe she'd try to save face with friends, maybe even her mother. But to lie to her own father like that? To paint me as the manipulator after everything? That changed things. I told him, you heard the recording. He didn't respond right away. But what he said next was simple, and final. You don't need to defend yourself anymore. I believe you. I'm sorry. That moment was the first crack in the wall she had built around her version of the story. The second crack came 2 days later. I hadn't planned on showing the recording to anyone else. But Dana made that decision for me. She posted on Facebook. Not some long dramatic rant, just a carefully crafted little caption under a selfie of her holding a wine glass in her new condo. Sometimes you have to choose peace over history. New beginnings dizzy #self-love #growth #healing. And the comments? All her friends, all our mutual acquaintances, clapping emojis, you go girl, proud of you, and one particularly brutal one. He never deserved your light. I read that one twice. Then I opened my messages and sent the recording to one person I knew would never keep quiet about it, her cousin Haley. Haley had always been skeptical of Dana's stories. She'd once told me at a family barbecue, Dana lies like she's getting paid for it. I didn't believe her then. I do now. I didn't add any explanation. Just sent the file with the message. This is what really happened. Less than an hour later, it spread. I didn't post it online. I didn't leak it to Reddit or start airing dirty laundry on social media. But somehow, as these things always do, the truth made its way into inboxes, texts, private group chats. By the end of the day, 3 of her friends unfollowed her. 2 messaged me directly, saying they had no idea. One even apologized for what she'd commented under Dana's photo. I wasn't celebrating. I didn't feel victorious. I felt sad. Sad that truth had to fight so hard just to be heard. But I also felt lighter. The next morning, Dana showed up again. No call, no warning. Just appeared on the porch, sunglasses on, jaw locked tight. She didn't knock. She just stood there until I opened the door. What the hell did you do? She hissed, voice low, shaking. I stared at her. Calm. I told the truth, I said. Something you didn't do. You embarrassed me, she said. You humiliated me. I was healing. No, I said quietly. You were hiding. That's when she finally dropped the mask. The tears weren't performative this time. They were real. Ugly. Heavy. She sank down onto the porch steps, hands covering her face. I didn't know how to come back from it, she whispered. I didn't want to be the bad guy. You didn't have to be, I replied. You just had to be honest. She cried harder. I didn't touch her. I didn't sit next to her. I let her fall apart, not out of cruelty, but because I finally understood something important. It wasn't my job to hold her together anymore. I had carried this marriage alone for too long. I had stitched holes in us with my own skin, hoping she'd notice the pain and offer her own. She never did. Now, she sat crumbling under the weight of her own decisions. And I? For the first time in years. I stood free of them. But the final chapter hadn't been written yet. Because while she lost her image, I was still about to make one more choice, a choice about me. It's strange how healing doesn't always feel like a victory march. Sometimes it just feels like waking up and making coffee without your hands shaking. Sometimes it's driving past the restaurant where she used to text someone else under the table, and not feeling your stomach twist anymore. Sometimes it's realizing that the house is quieter, emptier, and yet somehow, finally yours. That was me now. Chester. Just a guy with a beat-up garage, a beagle named Cricket, and a freedom I never knew I was missing. Dana didn't come back after that last visit. She sent one final message a week later. I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But I do hope you find someone who actually deserves you. That message didn't make me cry. It didn't make me angry. It made me thankful. Because after everything, the lies, the gaslighting, the hotel, the Facebook post, the manipulation, she had finally spoken one honest sentence. It was too late, but it was true. The divorce went through clean. We split everything down the middle. I let her keep the condo and the espresso machine. I kept the house and the dog. And a few weeks after the papers were signed, I did something small but meaningful. I took Cricket for a weekend trip to the Oregon coast. Just me, him, and the sound of waves crashing over the kind of silence that doesn't hurt anymore. I sat on a weathered bench overlooking the ocean, sipping bad gas station coffee, and I smiled. Not because I'd won. But because I had escaped. Escaped a life where I was begging for scraps of affection. Escaped a version of myself that thought being a good man meant tolerating being treated like I was disposable. And now, I'm rebuilding. Not into someone new, but into the man I should have been all along. The one who sets boundaries. The one who doesn't apologize for having needs. The one who believes that love isn't supposed to feel like a test you keep failing. And no, I haven't met anyone new yet. That's not the point. I'm not looking for the one anymore. I'm becoming him. For me. So, if you've made it to the end of this story, thank you. Seriously. And now I want to hear from you. Speech balloon: what moment in your life made you realize it was time to walk away, or finally stand up for yourself? Tell me in the comments, I read every single one. And don't forget to hit subscribe for more real stories like this on Reddit Confessions. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do, is pack your own bag and start again. Thank you for watching. This was Reddit Confessions. Until next time.